I wrote down, I went out the other day and I kind of, from the second I woke up to dropping in, I wrote down all the thoughts I had concerning avalanches. And I did that for myself, and I've been doing that a little bit just to, I find like it gets my head in the game, which is part of my mental checklist, which is be present. But I want to start off with what I call pregame. I believe that, about 70% of mistakes that happen in the backcountry can be avoided before you ever leave your house. Meaning, if you're going into the backcountry, for one, you should know what the forecast is the day before. I check my avalanche forecast every day, unless the hazards are low. I actually check it in the morning and at night to see if there was issues from that day. These forecast centers are so badass, and they are doing so much work for you that it's just this incredible tool. And it's again, if we're in moderate or up, I check it before I go to bed to see if there's issues that day, and I check it at 7 o'clock when the new forecast comes out. So anyways, this is a day where we have a moderate snowpack, and we're forecasted for 6 inches of snow. So my first thought of the day, before it's still dark out, wake up at 6 in the morning, and I'm thinking about my group. This group is super important. So I'm like, all right, I got a 6-person group, 3 of which I've never been out with. That's a potential red flag. Look out the window, see what looks to me like more snow on the trees than I thought. And now I'm thinking about the tour that I'm going on, and there's one particular rollover that I'm now going, wow, there's probably more snow on that than I thought. So 6:05, look at the trees, surprised on the snow. Look, a couple minutes later, check my railing. It did snow 4 inches, not that big of a deal, what I thought. Drive up the pass, check for naturals, no signs. 7 o'clock, check my avalanche forecast. It's moderate. Now, mind you, we've been in a drought, so I'm going to an area that I know, even though the forecast is moderate, this particular area in the range, we've come to realize that when it snows 4 inches everywhere else, it snows 8 to 15 inches in this area. So I've been in this area a lot, and you need to realize that when you're in that spot in the range that turns 6 inches to 12 inches, you can't trust a moderate forecast. Even though it's moderate in my head, I'm considering it considerable. Beacon check, 9:05. I get to my first avalanche, not in avalanche terrain, but now I'm up at mid-elevation, and it's my first opportunity to test the snowpack. So convex rolls, the way you learn about the snowpack is tweaking the snowpack. So you want to find these convex rolls, and they can literally, it could be this big. So a convex roll is, does everyone know that? Concave is like that, convex is like that. Those are unsupported slopes. So I look for, on the side of the skin track, these convex rolls, and I do it all the way up, every elevation, every aspect. I get on top of them, try and get them to break. If there's high avalanche danger, that stuff will break, and it will be, like size of your dinner table. No big deal, but it tells you if that little roll's breaking, that big slope's gonna break. So you're always looking for these unsupported slopes to tweak the pack. So test that first opportunity to do that, 9:05. 9-10, get up to this small cornice. Cutting cornices is a very advanced move. I do not recommend messing with big cornices, but even very little chunks of snow, again, if you can drop a chunk of snow that then lands on the convex roll, it just tweaks the pack more than just standing on it. 915, find this awesome place to, same deal, convex roll, totally wind loaded, very small. Right now I'm operating in 4x4 spaces. And this is not a day that I'm like high avalanche danger. This is just a normal, average day. No real major red flags going on. Dig a quick pull pit, don't see anything. So 9:55, I'm at the top of the run at this known avalanche path. Sure enough, there'd been a cornice fall and an 8-inch avalanche, ran pretty big, full track, and I look at that and I'm really happy. So I've seen now that the slope has been tested. It's run full track. It's this is a particular tour where we go up to the top, ride down, and then we have to come back up. So what I do in that scenario, I need to make sure, it's one thing kicking off an avalanche, even a small avalanche, going down and you cut it and it's not that big of a deal. You know, if you're dealing with a 8-inch kind of 10x10 avalanche scenario, that deal with a proper ski cut, you know, hitting a wind-loaded pocket, not that big of a deal on the way down. But on the way up, that size of a pocket can be very dangerous. So with that, I am, so I see this thing, it's run full track. I'm excited. It did not a huge propagation, and it's, most importantly, I know I have a way out because I'm going to follow that slide path to get back out of there. In this particular area, this is a very popular area in Tahoe, and this is a spot, just to revert back to, it reminds me of, you know, you might ask like why I'm not digging a snow pit there, and with me, one of the things snow pits are a great tool, but I personally never use a snow pit to talk myself into riding something. I was in this exact spot 2 weeks earlier, and I get to the top, and this was a higher avalanche day, and in my head I'm like, unless this bowl's ripped, I'm not going into it. It's too big of a roll. At that point, we're dealing with 2 feet of snow, tons of wind loading. We're in a much, you know, once you get into that 12 inches and up scenario, you're in kind of, you can't fuck around with that. You know, the day that I'm describing here, we're talking 6 inches, so I'm kind of fucking around a little bit. But so I get to the top of the ridge there, and I'm changing over, and this guy's there, and he's all fired up, and he's going, I'm going to go dig a snow pit. And I'm like, in my head, I'm going, well, so you're going to get onto the convex roll, put yourself in danger, dig a snow pit to see if it's safe. And in my head, I'm going, dude, you don't need to dig a snow pit today. It's considerable avalanche danger. A snow pit is not going to, unless you are a rocket scientist, there's no, like, it's either there's been a slide or not, and we can handle it because the slope's been clean. Sure enough, I come over there, and the guy's climbing back out, and he's like, oh my God, it's not safe. I just kicked off a huge slide. And I'm like, what, dude? Yes, I knew you were going to kick, you should have never gone in there. It's like, I'm getting out of here. And I'm like, well, cool, I'm going, because you just kicked off this huge slide, I'm going to go ride 5 feet over from it. But it's an example of, I'm just going to use this because this is a user group that I consider as a red flag user group. This is the guy who is 24 years old, he's super fit, so he's the hero on the way up, ripping skier, has his Abby too, but he's got 2 years or 3 years of backcountry experience. And I don't give a shit how much courses you've been in, 3 years of Avalanche experience, of traveling in Avalanche terrain, you are a beginner. And that is really important. And I'll touch on mentors after that. But in closing on my snow pit point is great tool, but don't go and dig your snow pit and think you're being safe because you dug a snow pit, now everything's safe. Snow pits are, in my mind, very dangerous, and you should, I use them, but I never use them to talk myself into doing something. And I've seen it time and again where people see red flags and they're like, oh, it's sketchy out here, I'm going to dig a snow pit, and then I'm going to be safe, and then I'm going to go ride the dangerous slope, when you don't need to dig a snow pit to tell yourself that it's dangerous and you've got to ride off that slope anyways. So anyways, 10:36 at this point, we do have this group of, which have now swelled to 8. We decide to split up into 4s because there's still kind of some rolls halfway down. Come up with a plan. It's much simpler splitting up into 2 groups of 4 than trying to get 8 people down some avalanche terrain. Again, this is a moderate avalanche day. This is not, you know, we're not doing anything rad, but this is just, and I bring up all these points because I just want you to realize that you have to be in the game mentally and always looking at this stuff. So we split up and we basically, one side rides the group of this one side of the slide path, the other rides the other, but I always ask myself what happens if the slope slides, and that's going up and down. I must, when I'm in avalanche terrain or in the backcountry, I ask myself that 20 times a day, and you need to be real about it, and you should at this point know that, all right, we're worried about 3-foot deep avalanches, large propagation, and if your answer is, this slope slides, I die, which is, you never really want to be in that scenario unless you have huge confidence in the snowpack. So I'm very real with myself and have that conversation over and over again. So we drop in, skinning back up, another opportunity now. So we're going back up. I am always, when you do your skin tracks and you're a steep skin track and you do your switchbacks, another great spot, tweak the path. You see a nice, beautiful convex roll, I get excited, I'm like, oh, I can tweak the path. It's tweak the path as much as you can in safe places. Because a little 2x2 slide on a micro convex roll is going to tell you a bunch about the rest of the path. And then that brings me into my mental keys, because I always say experience is something you get just after you need it. What that means is you fuck up, you learn from it. I am super experienced because I've made so many mistakes. Luckily, not in those places where when I ask the question, what happens if this slides? And the answer, I make sure I'm in clean terrain where I've made mistakes before, but I've always made it in places where that answer was, I'm going to go 800 feet down this slide path. I'm going to, I might tweak an ankle, but I'm going to survive that field 10 out of 10 times. If there's, you know, and so I've made mistakes, but I've made mistakes in the right spot. But those mistakes, I'll touch on the mental keys, are led me to come up with my mental checklist. Because the mistakes that I've made, I've fucked up on the mental side of things. So the very first thing, I look at the trailhead as walking into a portal. It's time to turn off the phone and be present moment. The next one is ego. Ego, I have, and I write down ego, and it's as much for myself, you know, have I had this huge success? Have I been on fire lately, been nailing these rad lines? Do I have an inflated ego personally, or is anyone in my group have ego? I hate ego in the mountains. That's one of the most dangerous tools, and when I sense any ego, that's a quick way to, I avoid people with ego in the mountains. Overconfidence, you know, when have I turned around? I keep track of turning around. If I haven't turned around in a while, I start going, what the fuck, you haven't turned around? You're overconfident, or you know, you get on this high horse. And then for the big lines, patience. The mountains don't give a shit if it's your last day of the trip or you only have Saturday. There is so many days you should not be in avalanche terrain. This winter, for example, we have not had extreme avalanche conditions, but we've had a funky path. I've probably 85% of my snowboarding right now has been inbounds. I don't want to deal with the complexities of our snowpack right now. And I know December, January, February, that's when so many avalanche fatalities happen. This is the third most fatalities we've ever had this month. And I always tell people they want to get into splitboarding, I'm like, killer. May and June is your time. And you're like, well, I'm at the beach at that time. It is such a simpler scenario, April, May, June, than November, December, January into February. That is like killing season in avalanches. So don't fuck around. So in my head, real snowboarding for me doesn't start till March, April, May. And then in closing, I just want to touch on mentors. We all hear get educated, great thing to do, take your Avi courses, but find mentors. The only badge that you have as a backcountry rider is, I've been in the back avalanche terrain for 30 years. Those are the guys I look for. The longer they've been in the mountains, the more you want to meet these people, you want to learn from them, you want to ask questions. Find mentors. If you don't know where to find mentors, I highly recommend getting a group of people together, your buddies, and hiring a local guide and spending time in your pack with a local badass guy. 2 days with a local to break down what you have going on in your snowpack. You can learn a ton from that. And these people, everyone who's here, you have that, but it's like, where do you find mentors? You go to the local avalanche fundraisers, you immerse yourself in the community, you'll find mentors. And my final mental checklist, fourth one, is just say no. And I also say that in my head over and over again. You take pride in backing down. That is a good day. That's when you know your head's in the right space, because it's all about you know, what I've learned from these mentors that I always ask them. You know, I have guys that are 60, 70 years old, and I go, how do I want to do what you're doing when I'm 70, and they always have a similar answer, which is ride for tomorrow. So let's ride for tomorrow, be safe, and be out there in June crushing 14ers. Cheers, guys.